A race for the ages resulted in a fan favorite with his first of 2024.
Here comes Bobby Fong to the checkered flag, and Bobby Fong from Stockton, California on a Yamaha R1 wrench motorcycles machine takes the big victory.
But teams have been hard at work, and a pair of Ducatis seem ready to grab victory.
You shouldn't be stopping and almost doing a stoppie on the track to avoid getting killed.
There's been plenty of times where I wanted to kill him off the track. I'm like, well, you just open the door. You just open the door for me to do that.
But if things go well for the 50, he could take over the championship lead. So much to play for in central Minnesota, and it starts right now. It's heart pumping time for the Moto America AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship this round. Moto America Superbikes at Brainerd, our 4th of 9 for 2024 at Brainerd International Raceway right here in Brainerd, Minnesota. And we are set for the Steel Commander Superbike class, race number 2, after an entertaining and close race number 1. And the sun has broken its way through the clouds. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time national champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, that was a bit of an entertaining race yesterday, and it was so good to see someone like Bobby Fong take his 4th Steel Commander career Superbike win and first of the season.
Well, we knew there was something special maybe at the beginning of the year when he got pole position at Road Atlanta. We know how well he's done here in the past, Greg, and yesterday he comes in here. He was quickest all week in practices and stuff. It was Cam Peterson quickly, though, that got out to the lead. Bobby Fong would then try to take his turn at the front, only then to have Josh Herrin slip underneath Cam Peterson, and in a lap later, he does the same thing to Bobby Fong down into that turn 12 area. This is kind of how it was going to run for the remainder of the race. As you see, Bobby had some corner speed. Josh Herrin was doing a masterful job until turn 3. He had his teammate Loris Baz right behind, who's itching to win one of these as well. But it was Bobby Fong on the wrench motorcycles, R1, that did the business. And you see those 3 guys, they're going to be back at it today here in about 10 minutes as well.
So here's the way it was in the first 4 races. Only 40 points scored for Bobby Fong and 0 wins with 1 podium. And now he is coming on like a freight train as they continue to get the spike sorted for him. 73 points, a win, and 3 podiums. Well, Hannah, the 3rd member of our broadcast team, is down on the grid under the sunshine.
2 podiums for Sean Dylan Kelly so far in his rookie season, and yesterday he was in the podium battle, knocking on the door, trying to get another one. What's it going to take for you to just make that next step today? Is it strategy? Is it physicality? What does it come down to?
Yeah, I think we've been in the fight, and we've been making steps every time out. I feel like I made a step in warm-up today, leading it, and I'm feeling pretty good right now. So honestly, I think we just need another shot at it.
Sean, always the picture of positivity here. Moving on down the grid, Brandon Posh, also in his rookie Superbike season with the M4 XR Suzuki team. Brandon finished the 6th place yesterday, best finish of 5th so far this season. You were shooting for top 10s really early on, trying to be consistently in the top 5. What's it going to take to get there?
Yeah, I don't know. We were struggling a little bit earlier on in the season, and we're starting to find our way, starting to move forward again. And it'd be nice to be consistently fighting for top 5s, and hopefully by the end of the year fighting with the front boys for some podiums. But it's a grind out here. Everybody's fast, and everybody's got good equipment and good teams. And so we're just chipping away at it, keep moving forward, and keep our heads down and focus on me. So.
The level of talent is very high at the front of the field. And guys, it's getting hot out here. Much different conditions than we saw yesterday.
Very interesting. So it's definitely heated up with the riders and the equipment. But as the track temperature increases, this is a 2.5-mile long road course. It's got 6 left-handers, 7 rights. The good thing about Brainerd International Raceway, it's a wide racetrack. There's a lot of opportunity to pass here. But it's that turn 11, 12, 13 area to run to the checker flag that's so important, especially if you leave the door open in turn number 12. But, JP, here is an Insta360 track lap, which we get an onboard look of Brainerd International Raceway.
Yeah, I love this view. We're on board with JD Beach through fast turn 1, and then up. They're going to be in 6th gear, Greg. You can see him click 6. This is all down into turn 2. You back shift to 5th. So this is just as fast as you can go on a Superbike. Probably the fastest corner on our calendar right here, turn 2. Like I say, 5th gear. Then we're in the turns 4, 5, and 6. You want to have a bike that's nimble and maneuverable through here that you can put anywhere, because there are passing opportunities in this area of the track. And then a few years ago, they came back and they did some stuff to this track for us to where we're going to be going through this big long right. This is a chicane. They're going to go over the paint. As they come out of here, it's a fast left, a fast right into turn 12 where you'll see some heavy braking. Great onboard coverage there thanks to Insta360.
That was a great look. Well, he came back to the U.S. Loris Baz, he's looking for his first Steel Commander Superbike win. You think he can get it done?
We're sticking with you here on Moto America Live Plus as Steel Commander Superbike riders getting ready for their warm-up lap. Roger, one of those talking points that we just heard coming from the grid is the fact that temperature has gone up, and looking at what the weather from race number 1 compared to race number 2 yesterday, track temperature was 80 degrees versus the almost 90 that we have right now. But the front 2 rows, no changes in tire choices between the 2 races.
Yeah, it's just crazy from one day to the next. Not only with the sun out, yesterday was kind of cool out, and right now the humidity is really picking up as well. So it's going to be a different track. What it's going to mean is it's going to make it a little bit more greasy out there. These riders are going to struggle with grip a little more compared to they did yesterday. So, you know, you might see some guys first couple laps trying to, you know, be a little bit patient, see what the track conditions are. But when it's slick like that, it makes it a little bit harder to make those passes and get a good drive out of the corner. So it's just going to be interesting to see the teams that were able to make a couple clicker adjustments here as the track temperature got up is really going to pay off.
So we go back to Friday in qualifying session number 1 when the track was greasy. The sun had been out all day, and several of the riders were talking about that afterwards, saying they were struggling to find the grip. But some of the riders like that riding style. And when you look at the results from that session, Bobby Fong, who mentioned earlier, is our pole sitter. He's led everything, and that was one of the sessions. But Cameron Peterson was right there behind him in that first qualifying session.
So for Cam, he was even strong yesterday in that race. So I think for those two, you kind of go back and you think about Friday and what the track was when it was greasy. And that's the thing. You take all those notes after every single session, and, you know, that's why you do that. So when you go back and you're in that same situation with track temperature, you can go and see where the bike was feeling good. And, you know, we'll see Cam Peterson is riding so well right now. He even mentioned it, best he's riding, the best he's felt. And he's been really consistent this year.
You look at some of the riders there. You see the 28. That's Troy Herfoss now in his second Superbike race here in Moto America competition. Sean Dillon Kelly just put that visor down there on that number 40, the BMW out of Top Pro Racing. And his move over to Superbike, and he's had a strong weekend so far and found some improvements overnight. We'll see if they stick with the sun out now. And you see they're all ready to go. So we're going to send it back over to Greg White and Jason Pridmore. It's time for Superbikes.
Steel Commander Superbike coverage is brought to you by Steel Commander Corps, a leading steel building manufacturer offering expertise, innovation, and a dedication to quality. And by Dunlop, the official tire of the Moto America Championship Series.
Steel Commander Superbike motorcycles on their warm-up lap for Steel Commander race number 2 here at Brainerd International Raceway, and our 4th of 5 for the season as we are rapidly approaching the halfway point of this 2024 season already. And Friday afternoon and Saturday morning, they have these things called qualifiers, JP, and they go as fast as they can during the time. They combine the times from 2 days, and that sets where we line up on the racetrack, and it's called a starting grid. Want to take a look and see where everybody is, JP? Let's go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to see on the front row there, Bobby Fong, Loris Baz, and Jake Gagne. Baz is hungry to win one of these. SDK, quickest in warm-up this morning, Greg. He is 4th. Cam Peterson and Josh Herron. And then we got Posh, JD Beach, Xavi Flores. Troy Herfoss, who made some changes this morning, is a lot happier on that Tyler's bike. Max Flinders and Ezra Bobier, who had a slide off this morning, so we'll make sure he's out there. Ashton Yates, Benjamin Smith, and Danilo Lewis. And then you have Bryce Prince, Richard Kerr, and Nolan Lampkin, also outside of row 6. Meese, Campbell, Alex Arongo, Sierra, John Knowles, and Manny Segura. And a little bit further back, JC Camacho, Corey Pappas, and Staffke are going to run out your field. So yeah, there's some guys that made some changes this morning, Greg, talking with Troy Herfoss. He says, you know, he told me, he said, gee, I'm just a day behind. If I could have been where I was this morning, yesterday morning, he's like, I know I would have, you know, felt a lot better, but Tyler's guys are doing everything they can to get him comfortable on that motorcycle. He realizes the weapon he's got underneath him, and he's just kind of chipping away at it. So see if Troy can come from that 10th spot and get himself forward a little bit.
This guy, number 76, Loris Baz, had an opportunity to lead a race here when we came to Brainerd International Raceway in Moto America for the first time. And he is definitely looking for some redemption. And yesterday in his post-race interview, he said that he had a weapon to win this race with, but he got a little bit too conservative in his head. We'll see if he pulls the pin today, the 76.
There's Troy Herfoss sitting back there, row number 4. So plenty of Superbike experience, just different kinds of Superbikes. So here we go, Greg, under the sun at Brainerd.
18 laps scheduled for Steel Commander Superbike race number 2. We're away, clutches are out. And now we're going to head into a very unique turn 1, 2, 3 start. And Bobby Fong gets a good launch. Right up the inside he goes. It looks like one of the attack
Cam Peterson.
Performance Progressive Yamahas of Cameron Peterson right there, trying to find a line up the inside. Not going to get that done. So here we go to our first braking opportunity, turn number 3, with Baz in 3rd spot. And there goes Sean Dylan Kelly. He's on the inside, but he holds on to 4th as they transition back. Josh Herrin on the number 2 is trying to get around the 40. Doesn't get that done. And so now we start to fall into a line and see who's going to be making moves early on in these early laps.
Yep, and I think I saw, it's good we see Xavi Flores did make our start today. He did a couple laps yesterday and was too sore after an incident on Friday. But Bobby Fong out front early told me he made some changes this morning. They actually changed quite a bit of stuff. And he said we're going right back to what we had yesterday. So, never rest on your laurels, I guess. You always want to try new things to see if you can make whatever you have even better. But for the 50, we didn't get to see this kind of Jack Roberts start from him yesterday. It was Peterson, the guy behind him, that was actually leading the first lap, the opening lap, and pulling a gap. And today, it's Bobby Fong doing some of that. Look at the gap, Greg, that he has already started to pull out just a little bit. I know it doesn't look like much, but heads down right off the bat. SDK tries to slide it up underneath Baz, didn't quite make it. He made some changes overnight. He was a lot happier with that BMW as he's running in 4th.
The big question now is, as the sun is out and starts to bake this racetrack, we haven't seen this kind of heat since Friday. So if the teams were making all their changes based on you can see the rear end of Sean Dylan Kelly's Top Pro Racing BMW moving a little bit sideways. That team coming up with a new sponsor, EasyHealthPlans.com. Now Top Pro Racing Machine. Trying to gather it underneath him, and that's going to give an opportunity for Josh Herrin to slide underneath as the drive was sacrificed through turns number 2. So there goes Herrin on that Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati.
Yeah, and Josh, again, this is an opportunity. I spoke to both the Warhorse riders together a little bit earlier as Cam Peterson just gets into turn 4 a little bit deep. And both those guys feel like they have a package underneath them that can win. And they were both, talking to Loris, very cognizant of what the championship looks like right now. This championship is really up in the air. As we saw Cam Beaubier fall over at Road America, it really brought a lot more guys back into this championship. So this man out front is only 8 points out of that championship. And Bobby Fong right now is kind of having it his way. This bike has been working tremendous all weekend long. And so for Bobby, having that clear track in front of him for now is working out good.
And of course, we know that the number 1 plate of Jake Gagne, who sits in 6th place, is not at 100% health either. For Jake Gagne, it's about that right hand, right forearm he's been struggling with. As a move has been made, teammate to teammate, Josh Herrin goes by his teammate Loris Baz. As Herrin sees the top 2 starting to get away, he wants to give himself the best opportunity to try to win this race. But look at the scrap between 3rd place as Sean Dylan Kelly in the mix as well. Boy, those are 3 very fast motorcycles equipped with the latest in aerodynamic technology. You see the aero wings out of the front of the motorcycle creating downforce, and Sean Dylan Kelly is able to slide his way into 4th.
Herrin's the guy, though, that I think can pull this group forward. You see JD Beach just off the back of Loris Baz as well, as he has gotten by. Here's the pass. Josh Herrin straight lines it right from 12 to 13. Makes that pass as clean as you like on his teammate. Loris tried to cut it back up underneath him and actually had a little bit of a run, but it wasn't enough before they got to that turn 1. So, for Herrin, he'll be able to bring these guys back up. This morning, Greg, he was fast, he was confident. I heard him over the speakers giving an interview saying he went out on old tires this morning and was very happy with where he was. Hannah
JP, back to what you were saying about Fong at the beginning of the race, making some changes to that motorcycle. He told me they changed some clutch settings, they tried a shock, some electronic settings, just looking for that next tenth out on the racetrack, and nothing was really giving him what he looked for, so he did revert back to that previous setting. A good direction for the race. He said he's got good race pace, but he can't be too conservative in these early laps, which is why you saw him get to such a strong start. And while he has a bit of a gap there, it's not quite the comfortable lead that he's looking for to leave the field behind.
As Bobby Fong goes 1:30.913, fastest lap of the race out front. I think the important thing to note too for the Wrench Motorcycle team is the fact that if you're trying something and it doesn't work, the one thing that's been really helping Bobby Fong and this team, JP, as I talk to them, is they have had a really good baseline setting. What we mean by baseline is basically the setup that they're going to have to start the weekend with, and as they make adjustments. When you have a good baseline setting and you're just working on refining that package, which was what they were trying to do today, and it doesn't work, it's still okay. But it just adds to the database of things and adds to the knowledge. So as you continue to get deep in this year, the refinement of this bike just keeps getting better and better for Fong.
I think the other thing it shows, when you trust a team that much to change that many things in a warm-up after you win the days before, that shows the kind of trust that he has in Robbie Peterson and all the guys underneath that canopy down there to make those changes, go out and make an effort to see if they can find what they need to find. Obviously, you can see here, Greg, he's gone red again in Sector 2. He's continuing to pull away, 33.1 in that second sector to a 33.6. He pulled half a second just in the second sector over second place Cam Peterson. So that just goes to show you how comfortable he is on the number 50 out in front right now.
So Cam Peterson, who's been definitely on a surge, coming back from injury and continues to find good settings in his attack performance progressive Yamaha. Now for the South African, Jay, we know that Richard Stamboli and the attack performance progressive Yamaha team tried to reinvent the Yamaha R1, changing the center of gravity, the seating position, definitely changing the length of the motorcycle, trying to use less electronic interference with drive, acceleration, wheelie control. But they have definitely gone back and forth. And for that team, it's like they did so much of the motorcycle in the offseason when the attack performance progressive. Oh, man!
Big crash for Sean Dillon Kelly coming out of that turn 3. That's a big high side. And we have not seen many mistakes, again, from him this year. But that's going to be one that will leave a mark for sure. When a bike does that to you for the first time, Greg, you know you swing your leg back over it, thinking about it a little bit differently the next time, and that's really separated things. That really hurt Loris Baz. Loris Baz has completely lost touch with the two guys directly behind as well. So you're going to see he gets in here behind Josh Herrin. He's been getting really good drives out of here, almost pulling up alongside Herrin the lap prior. This bike's going to snap sideways, and you can see Loris Baz had to take big action to miss. So unfortunate for Loris Baz, even obviously more unfortunate for SDK.
Very unusual to see a modern superbike this way with a high side. Normally the electronics are so advanced, but something similar that we saw last year when Cameron Beaubier ended his season.
That got out there just far enough where it just, the electronics didn't quite catch it. So now Baz is back in the clutches of JD Beach, Jake Gagne, and Brandon Posh. I suspect Baz will now pull away, obviously, from these guys. He's got pace, but for JD Beach, this is another chance for him to tag onto the back of a guy that's been running really well. You see JD running 5th right now. Gagne 6th, Posh there in 7th. So really good run again from Brandon Posh. He's been doing some really hard work trying to get that GSX-R1000 with his team closer to the front. Looking at his lap times, 33.2 that last time by. Everybody in front of him was in the 33s. So yeah, good job from Brandon. These guys still battling for second.
With Sean Dillon Kelly's exit, that's going to move Jake Gagne up, at least for the moment, to 6th place, as he's looking to minimize any of the damage in the championship that's being done this weekend for him, as the battle for second is getting closer. But JD Beach on the Tytler Cycles bike, back there with Gagne and the Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki of Brandon Posh, just ahead of Troy Herfoss, who's in 8th place and having a better run at it. We haven't seen the Australian Superbike champion just yet, but we know he's back there giving it a go. Boy, and I'll tell you what, Sean Dillon Kelly took a big hit to the head too.
Glad to see him okay.
Yeah.
You know, that was obviously a very big one. So he'll be back stronger, hopefully, at the next round.
So for Cameron Peterson, Jay, just in that section of racetrack, turns 12 and 13. He's got to be mindful of the lines that he was taking, because if Josh Herrin is close enough, we know that Josh has a good enough bike underneath him where he can straight line it right through 12 and 13 and take position. But Cameron Peterson, he's doing a good job right now, but look at the speed. Herrin likes to get it sideways, just all drive out of there. But the question is, how's it going to be on the brakes when we get here? Herrin again, kind of that straight line, tight line move, will take over the spot, and nowhere for Cameron Peterson to retaliate out of that corner.
Yeah, he's trying to have a little look back here, but you know, the thing is Cam's going to come around this next lap, and I'll tell you the only thing that's going to give him a little bit of confidence, he's going to try to stick onto the back of Josh Herrin, but when he comes by this next lap, he's been seeing +0 on his board, Greg. The next time by, he's going to see +5 on his board. He's going to know he's under any pressure from behind, so he can really try to focus on Josh if he can actually go with him.
Hannah.
For Josh Herrin, yesterday went a little bit better than he expected. He talked about being a bit intimidated by this track, so he's feeling much more confident today after a productive warm-up session on used tires and ran some taller gearing. He also learned something from trying Bobby's line in the last corner, so we'll see if he continues to apply that as these laps wind down.
That's always helpful. I mean, just because a rider's taking a line on a dramatically different motorcycle, the R1 to that Panigale V4R, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to pay off, but definitely it'll give Josh Herrin some good ideas. So with Josh Herrin with clear track in front of him, we're looking at the lap time. So Fong went by, Xavi Flores, Vision Wheel M4 XR Suzuki's pulled off the racetrack. We're not sure if he had an incident or maybe just that pain is getting to him, but Bobby Fong goes 131.3, Jason, last time by. For Herrin, after he gets by Cameron Peterson, a 31.8. So the gap to the leader has now grown to about 3 seconds.
And Bobby's going to love seeing that on his board. You know, he's just racing against himself right now, watching his lap timer, and you know, reading the pit board on the way through. And there's nothing better than when you come around and, you know, it's gone from +1 to +2 to +3, and he's just grooving right now on that R1, and just super comfortable out front.
I'm talking to Cameron Peterson on the Attack Performance Progressive Yamaha early in the day. I asked him if they were planning on any changes to this motorcycle, and he said no, they really weren't. I think the question really, Jay, is in the changing conditions dramatically now with the sun baking the track, and what tire choice, you know, what tire choices were made for each of these riders when they decided on which tire to go to. So obviously for Bobby Fong and his team, it's been absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and you can see when you start going through that list of who's on what tire and that kind of thing, Greg, where it really comes into play. Look at how good Herrin can get into this right-hander. He's so good getting that bike from left to right. And for Bobby right now, he's building up a big enough gap where, regardless of what tire choice he's at, you know, he's got it up to 3.5 seconds now. Still at 31.2, he was 7/10 quicker than Herrin and Cam Peterson this last lap. And I'm trying to see where he's doing most of his damage, and it just is kind of everywhere. The first sector, he was some 3/10 quicker as he is this lap as well. So he's just kind of building that pace up everywhere over these guys. It's just a 10th here, 2/10 there, but it's enough for him to just continue to pull away.
You think it's important at all if Cameron Peterson tries to throw a shot to Herrin and take over second spot, or is this where he wants to be? Let Herrin do the majority of the chasing of Bobby Fong, who's in first place.
Well, I think at this point, both riders have kind of, I don't want to say conceded the idea, but they know Bobby's on a rail up in front. So now it's going to be a matter of, you know, Cameron trying to improve his position and Josh trying to defend it. And I think Josh is not only one of the hardest guys to pass, but he's the guy that you know is going to fire right back at you if he gets that opportunity. The fight back is always there for him. But just have a look at this bike, Greg. It really doesn't move. It just kind of, everything Bobby does on it. And if you look at the simplicity in which he rides, he doesn't hang off a lot. He doesn't do a lot of crazy things as far as body positions and stuff go. Just very, very, very simple. And that bike just looks super good. But yeah, getting back to these two guys, see a little different lines there as we talked about before. I think that, you know, as a rider, Greg, let's see what it is at this time.
I think Campy lost a little. I think that line choice that he was taking was either a mistake or it was like, how am I going to try to drive on this Ducati at this point? But a little bit of a gap because through 12 and 13 wasn't the cleanest.
for the 45.
I mean, these guys are losing 7/10 a lap.
Yeah.
And so
well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, if you're Bobby Fong out front and your gap keeps growing and growing and growing now to 4.4, but Bobby's only going to see it when he comes. It's not start-finish line, but basically where the pit boards are between 11 and 12.
But what you have to remember is that when you see that as a rider and you see that you're, you know, if you go from, if they're giving him tenths of seconds, it might just be +3 or +4. But if they're actually giving him +3.5 as it was 2 laps ago, and this time by it's going to be 4.3, he's going to look at the lap times that he's doing and go, okay, these guys are going half a second a lap slower. I can get this out to 5 seconds and back off by 2/3, half a second, and then I can, you know, kind of bring this home. But then again, with Bobby, I think that the way he rides, I always feel like, you know, especially on the Superbike as he's matured, he's always got a little bit in reserve. And right now, these lap times are coming very easy for him. I don't feel like he's having to over push at all.
Yeah, Bobby's very comfortable right now, and he had mentioned yesterday that he does look at his lap timer when he's in the middle of the race, and so that's a big tool in his toolbox. He's going to be able to manage that. Now, Jay, when you talk about pit boards, when you were racing, did your crew give you the actual split, or did your crew lie to you every now and then about what the actual split was? We have seen it over the years as we start to ratchet back to 5th place JD Beach. He's having a good run, and there's Brandon Posh in 6th place.
Trying to get that top 5 is Brandon Posh. You heard him talk about that earlier, 6 yesterday. And for JD, these guys have kind of gotten broken away from Gagne, who we know, like you said, Greg, earlier, is obviously struggling.
JD sideways, the old dirt tracker. So you're going to answer my question. What did your crew do on your pit board?
I had a pretty good discussion with anybody that was on my board of, like, try not to lie to me, because if I've got +3 and you're giving me +1, it might make me continue to push harder and make a mistake. So I think that information that you get from your pit person, whoever that is on your board, is pretty key. And you know, it's just easier to just tell the truth on that one.
Yeah, for you, definitely. But who knows? So JD Beach, Heitler Cycle, BMW M1000RR, teammate to Cameron Beaubier, who's not with us at this point in the season. And there's the #1 plate of Jake Gagne. And Jay, to tell Jake Gagne's story right now is it's frustrating, it's heartbreaking at this point, as we know that for Jake Gagne, he's been struggling over the years with arm pump. So basically what happens is your forearm gets really, really firm and you lose some feeling in your hands. But at this point with our live points, as Gagne could lose this championship lead to Bobby Fong, things are very interesting right now for the #1, Hannah.
They are, and Greg, it's beyond just arm pump. He's had issues with that wrist in the past, and that entire right hand, that braking hand, is feeling numbness all around, and it's really frustrating for him because mentally he's still of sound mind. Physically, everywhere else, he knows that he's capable of doing this, and he certainly has the bike to do it. He's just unable to push the bike to its full capabilities.
Yeah, it's a really frustrating thing. We spoke to him this morning, Hannah, and it's funny, you know, Greg, he's won so many races, he's won so many championships, he's obviously, as class as he is, he's not actually injured. He's just got a problem when he rides, and he's going to all kinds of lengths to try to figure out what it is. You get a look at Troy Herfoss here with Max Flinders and Ashton Yates directly behind. So this is the top 10 right now, as you see Flinders battling with Ashton, who had a really nice stock 1000 race earlier today. And for Ashton, the Honda is a new bike for him that he's gone back to. Saw him on the Scheibe BMW last year. So this is a stock 1000 bike. And for Max Flinders, we see him doing double duty every weekend, don't we, Greg, on this Yamaha R1 that he's on. And then he's, of course, on the Indian in the baggers class. Just behind them, Benjamin Smith, another one of our stock 1000 competitors who had another really good run for him as well. So, yeah, so this is the battle just for that top 10.
So Max Flinders on the Thrashed Bike Racing Yamaha R1. That is the iconic yellow and black that if you've been a Moto America fan since the inception in 2015, you know the 88. And of course, in the Mission King of the Baggers class, Flinders has had 2 podium appearances. And the first one was at New Jersey last year, where it was very emotional. The deck is stacked a little bit taller for a guy like Flinders in this category. But looking at Ashton Yates, he's on the Jones Honda. That's a CBR 1000RR-RSP. And we have been treated to so many Hondas this season in Moto America for 2024 on the back of contingency that American Honda has posted. And boy, Jason, if you win a Steel Commander Superbike race on a Honda that's eligible, so like 2019 to 2024, it's $25,000 for a win contingency from Honda. But even if you stack yourself up and put yourself in a good position, like we've seen Hayden Gillum do when he's only racing 2 classes, you're able to take home quite a bit of money.
Yeah, and Hayden obviously doing double duty again this weekend in the stock 1000 class and in the baggers. So he opted out of riding Superbike, Greg, and I think some of the Superbike riders were probably happy about that, because Hayden Gillum was awfully quick this weekend. So
he'll be back though at the Ridge.
He'll be back.
Steel Commander Superbike.
He'll be back. 5 seconds now is the lead, and it looks like Herrin is just starting to creep away, doesn't it, from Cam Peterson? So we'll see what kind of lap times Herrin did on this lap. He's going to go 31.6 to 31.6, both of them at the exact same lap time there. Again, Bobby Fong a tick quicker than both at 31.5. Bobby's got that out to an even 5 seconds now. But on screen, you can definitely see that there's a gap where Herrin has created for himself here.
I've also noticed the body language just slightly changes with Josh Herrin. I think maybe Josh Herrin is making a current push right now to see if he can close the gap to Bobby Fong at all. We do see this with the length of the races that we get in Steel Commander Superbike. You will see an ebb and a flow, and riders will push in certain places and they'll relax in other places. But Josh Herrin right now is trying to break away from Cam Peterson and see if he can just get any of that 5 second gap back. Hannah?
He is, and Cam Peterson's trying not to lose sight of him. Now these riders are both on the same rear tire compound, that R3, different fronts. So Cam's running a little bit of softer front on the R0 on the front, R3 on the front for Herrin. Ultimately, I think what this will come down to is physicality and execution. This is a very physical track compared to what we saw at Road America. You know, how well does each of their setups lend itself to tire degradation? How well manually are they managing that tire wear? And the times are really close. Execution-wise, can Cam Peterson get close enough to instill doubt or force Herrin into a mistake? What lines do they need to run? Where do they line themselves up in these final laps are all the questions we'll see here with just under 5 laps to go.
Yeah, and we're getting ready to come across the start-finish line, and we know Bobby Fong comes across JP at a 131.9, and Herrin goes 131.8. So the work that he was able to put in only gained him about, let's just say, 0.2 of a second overall.
Yeah, no, it's Bobby's controlling this completely now, and he's been in the 31s the entire race with a best lap of a 30.9. Guy in second here did go 31 flat, did Josh Herrin. So going to move back just a little bit further here, Greg.
There's Loris Baz, but we do have a change in position for the 5th place spot. It's Brandon Posh who's gotten around JD Beach.
This kid, he's working hard, man, and tries to stay as positive as he can. He had a great Friday morning practice. He was 3rd. And so that had to be a big boost for him and the team. And you heard him talking to Hannah before the race started that he's just going to keep grinding away, putting in his laps, works awful hard off the track as well, as do all these guys. But for Brandon here, top 5 is going to be a nice little placing for him.
For the Vision Wheel M4 ECSTAR Suzuki team, they worked awfully hard in the offseason to try to find a little bit more in the motor. Keep in mind, this is an aging GSXR 1000.
You see him look down to the left there, Greg? It looked like he maybe switched over to a different map. Not sure if that is something that that he does, but he definitely looked over and did something on the left handlebar there, maybe to help that bike, maybe as the tire goes down a little bit as far as grip levels go. So he maybe made a small adjustment.
Yeah, generally what happens in Steel Commander Superbike with the advanced electronics that we have on these motorcycles, teams oftentimes will set up, say, 3 different maps that the rider will have to choose from during the course of the race, because they're the pilots, they're the ones, there's no telemetry that goes back to the teams, so it's up to the rider. So the teams, the engineers, have to make an educated guess as to how the bike's going to react during different stages of the race, and so they'll give riders options. Now, if you go around this paddock like Jason and I do, and you talk to a lot of the crew chiefs about their riders and ask them, how often do your riders use maps? You're going to get a variety of answers, because there's quite a few of the top riders that have never switched a map in their entire racing career, but that could be the case for Brandon Posh. He's also a younger rider, Jay, and he's used to more of the electronics that are available as opposed to some of our older riders, which didn't really have it growing up in racing.
Well, let's not forget that Brandon Posh he won Junior Cup Championship years ago here in Moto America, and then he went overseas, went over to England and did some racing over there, and he's just continued to be kind of a grinder, a hard worker, a guy that didn't have a lot of money behind him, so it was hard for him to get in the paddock and get a good ride. And he's got a shot here. This team's done a nice job of helping him along. And, you know, look, he's paying him back right now with a really good effort and a really good ride right now.
And the thing with Posh that I talked to him before the last race we had at Road America, or during that Road America weekend, he was really baffled, Jay, as to, like, they would test and he would go absolutely ripping, and then they would come to the race and he would slow down. Then they went to a test again and he was flying again. Then he came to the racetrack. And so he was trying to figure out, how do I transform my mentality? And he's doing great in 5th. Now, Jay, here is Troy Herfoss, the 3-time Australian and reigning Australian Superbike champion. He's already raced 2 classes in Moto America in his rookie season, the 37-year-old. I want to get a good look at, Jason, and kind of analyze the riding that you're seeing from Troy Herfoss on Cameron Beaubier's Tytler cycle as Herfoss is filling in for him. What are you seeing from this guy?
Well, what you got to remember about this is the Australian rules are so different than ours. They're all stock 1,000 rules, essentially, with no electronics, no rider aids, no anything. So even though he's as seasoned as he is, you have to remember that this is probably a shock to his system because of the superbikes that he's ridden over the years. This is going to be a lot different than what he's used to. And I think that being able to just come in here without a test, first time, never seen Brainerd before, new team, new everything. You know, these laps are super important because we know he's going to be on this bike again at the Ridge, it sounds like. And so with that said, it's going to give him a time to decompress after this and try to figure out some of the things and the nuances of what this bike had to offer. Some of the adjustabilities that he's not going to be used to, as we see Bobby Fong coming around right now for the white flag. He went 31.7 again last lap. The only guy in the 31s was this man, Bobby Fong. But for Troy Herfoss, we just got to give him a little bit of time, I think.
Yeah, a little bit of time for sure. So it's spaced out 1, 2, 3 as Herrin now keeps that gap at about 5 seconds with Cameron Peterson, another 2 behind him, and another good points haul for Herrin. Boy, it was definitely a podium drought, and then all of a sudden the number 2 has turned it on. But what can you say about Bobby Fong? I mean, to come into this weekend, it's, you know, this privateer effort. A lot of people, Jason, think that this is a bike that Attack Performance built a couple years ago, right? Like, I had fans talking to me about, oh, that's just an Attack Performance bike. Absolutely not. The foundation of this bike, there might be some bits and pieces scattered around, but we know the motors are built by the team, and of course, Nick Seiling created that swing arm with the big number 50 holding up that rear tire, and it's been magical because Bobby Fong, when he is centered, he is focused, and he's confident when he has a team around him, this is what we get from the 50.
And the other dynamic that I love about this story with the team is that Robbie Peterson, who obviously legend in our sport, crew chiefing this bike, and Robbie Peterson's son's in 3rd right now, so it'll be interesting seeing them all on the podium together. But this has been a dream weekend for the Wrench Motorcycles team and for Bobby Fong. Hats off to them as he's got 2 corners to go.
He looks over his shoulder and sees nothing. He's got to look forward. He has another look just to double check to make sure nobody's going to attack him. Now Bobby Fong through the final corner. He's going to try to lift the wheel in the air, and he gets a little bit of a wheelie and a checkered flag. And Bobby Fong with back-to-back victories and smiles all around. Team owner David Anthony in the mix in the middle of his team. And how about the Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki rider of Brandon Posh? He's going to hold off JD Beach. Onto the straightaway they go. And Posh said he wanted to be solidly in 5th, top 5, and he gets 5th place for the weekend.
Yeah, good on him. And here's Troy Herfoss. He got closed down from Ashton Yates on this last lap, and you can see just behind him even Ezra Bouvier. So Troy Herfoss is going to come around in, looks like 8th place as Gagne ended up 7th. He's going to have Ashton Yates, a whole slew of guys directly behind him.
So Herfoss did what he needed to do, meaning didn't throw it away, and he's still got racing to come too later in the day. So, but Bobby Fong, here's a look at his lap progression. You can see the fastest lap on lap number 3, taking a cue from Cameron Beaubier's book and Jake Gagne's book, and I don't know, go back to Josh Hayes and go back to Matt Mladen. It's that let's put down the fastest laps we can on fresh tires
and look, you
with
never
a full fuel load.
And you never want to say it was easy, but that was pretty easy for him. You know?
Well, if you say so.
Yeah.
The good news is we'll find out how easy it was for Bobby Fong when we get back to Brainerd International Raceway.
We'll continue with you live here on Moto America Live Plus. And Roger, as we were watching this race, you said it a couple of times, I just can't believe it. We now have Bobby Fong with a true privateer team behind him leading the Steel Commander Superbike Championship standings.
Yeah, I can't believe it, but I love it at the same time. You know, Bobby, you see Sean Dillon Kelly there after his crash getting a ride back in, but for Bobby Fong, a guy that's been out of Superbike racing for a couple years, goes and gets a real job. A team that hasn't really did Superbike at this level, privateer team doing their own development, and then they're going to come into Moto America Superbike race when we've been talking all year, all the riders in Superbike, all the media, everybody, how stacked the class is this year, and then they come in at this race and do the double. I mean, it's just incredible. I love to see it because I like Bobby. He works hard, but I also love it because the Wrench Racing crew shows, you know, that you can build parts yourself. You can do it your own way, and you can go and be competitive at the highest class in Moto America.
You see Robbie Peterson there giving Bobby Fong that hug, and Cam Peterson's dad, of course, and now he's going over to congratulate his son on his podium result as well as a great ride for Cameron Peterson. But as you see Bobby Fong, and you see how happy everybody is for him and just the camaraderie that exists down there. You know, it's really great to see, but you can hear the conversations there with the helmet still on. And for Bobby Fong to be able to have the weekend like he had, a 3.8 second lead over Josh Herrin, and he had a 1:30.9 as his best lap during the race today. He went quicker today than he did during the race yesterday, even with the sun coming out.
You see the respect Cam Peterson has for him, because he knows what Bobby's went through to get back to this point as a rider. You can feel it when you see a rider who thinks that their career's over and they got to move on, and they don't want to. They're not ready. So I think you see that respect. And Josh Herrin did a great job today. I'm sure he wants to win, but it was a great points day. You know, come out and get 20 points at the end. Did what he had to do. Josh is going to want to fight for this championship. It rides like today. Yes, you want to win every race, but when you don't have it, take those 20 points and move on.
See Bobby getting into position there with the bike. I saw Hannah Lopa down there in that shot as well. We're going to have the opportunity to hear from all three of these riders that were able to wrap up their weekend of racing here at Brainerd International Raceway and find some success out there and be able to wrap up their championship points weekend. We're going to go ahead and send it back over to Greg White and Jason Pridmore along with Hannah Lopa to continue the Steel Commander Superbike coverage from here at Brainerd.
Steel Commander Superbike coverage is brought to you by Steel Commander Corps, a leading steel building manufacturer offering expertise, innovation, and a dedication to quality. And by Dunlop, the official tire of the Moto America Championship Series.
For Bobby Fong, his 5th career Steel Commander Superbike win as his team gets to celebrate with him. Let's take a look at those results because it certainly was a controlled race for Bobby Fong. 3.8 seconds over Josh Herrin and Cameron Peterson. A couple seconds behind, and Loris Bass, Brandon Posh, JD Beach, Jake Gagne. Boy, it's going to be interesting with the points. But before we get to all that, let's get down to Hannah with Bobby.
A 5th career Superbike victory for Bobby Fong, 2 of which took place right here this weekend. Bobby Fong has been singing his team's praises all weekend long. Bobby, how were they able to provide you with a platform to allow you to win in such dominant fashion?
Oh, I don't know, man. Like I'm just speechless. You know, I'm happy. I couldn't enjoy the win yesterday because you always, you know, when you get on the podium, all you're thinking is like, man, how am I going to do it tomorrow? You know, so I couldn't really enjoy it yesterday, but man, hats off to my whole team. Honestly, everybody, my job, Dainese, everybody, all the fans this weekend. We had a great weekend. You know, we're not going to get ahead of ourselves. We still have some work to do because these guys are fast, man. But I'm looking forward to the Ridge, and you know, let's keep the ball rolling. But I'm damn excited.
Congrats, Bobby, guys.
Should be. He's leading the championship after that run.
Should be excited.
I mean, how many people have actually led the championship? Think about it. Moto America 10th anniversary year. There's only been 3 riders that have won Steel Commander Superbike championships. This is such a talking point. Let's get down to Hannah.
Second podium appearance of the weekend for Josh Herrin in 2nd place today. Battling it out there with Cam Peterson, going back and forth quite a bit. What was it that allowed you to break away?
Oh, I just kept trying my hardest, man. I'm really screwing myself with these bad qualifying positions. You know, like I talked to you about, it was a struggle for me all weekend practicing qualifying. So we had a lot of work cut out for us to make up the ground, and yeah, we just weren't able to do it. So it's a bummer for sure, but we just got to build off this. I think we're second in the championship now. If not, we're really close. And yeah, just a big thanks to my entire Warhorse, HSBK Racing, Ducati team. Thank you to Kato and everybody involved. It really is a huge team effort, and I appreciate everything they do. And thanks to all my personal sponsors. And we're going to go home and, you know, celebrate a little bit. I know it's 2 seconds, but we still got to celebrate. So got my Good Boy vodka here, and we're going to have some fun.
Congratulations, Josh Herrin, on 2 podium appearances this weekend.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, do not count him out of this championship, because when he won in, you know, back in 2013, it was a battle too, where he was there all year long, and when the door opened up, he was able to grab the #1 plate. Back down to Hannah.
And Cam Peterson still in that championship points battle as well, with a 3rd place finish today, battling out there with Josh Herrin. Take us through that race. Was there anything you would have liked to do differently, or anything you learned to prepare you for the next round?
Yeah, you think by now I would have learned, but just messy opening laps, and Bob got that gap. But yeah, I just struggled towards the middle part of the race. Yeah, I was just kind of slipping and sliding all over the place, but I can't give a shot. I can't thank the Attack Performance Progressive Yamaha team enough. These guys put in so much work to these things, and we'll be back on the box, top step of the box soon. But yeah, thank you to everybody. Thanks for all the support, and all my sponsors, Alpine Stars, Shark Helmets, Troy Lee Designs, everybody in my corner. Thank you.
Congrats, Cam.
I understand he's a little bit critical of himself, and he was definitely charging hard those first couple laps, and he was right there. And there's Josh Hayes congratulating Bobby Fong. As we step away from Brainerd International Raceway, our coverage will continue in a moment.
For Bobby Fong, he said it, Roger, he wasn't able to celebrate yesterday because he knew that there was still another race today, but going into the Ridge, just 2 weeks time, 1 weekend off, as the points leader now, it completely changes the ball game.
Completely changes the ball game for him. I mean, he's been chasing all these guys for the last half of the year. Now looks like he's got a target on his back. And we talk about momentum a lot during the practice and the qualifiers, and you talk about Bobby Fong having some really good momentum right now, and but he also kind of keeping his feet on the ground as well, knowing that these guys are going to work hard, and it's not going to be easy. He's got some really fast guys right behind him that want to get back on the top of that box. But for right now, Bobby should enjoy that win, man. Those Superbike wins are hard to come by, and you hear people talk about it all the time. They don't know when the last one's going to be. So you got to enjoy it. He had an awesome weekend. The team should enjoy it. But kind of like he said in yesterday's race, tomorrow you got to get back focusing on the next race.
Yeah, there's not a lot of time in between the rounds at this point in the season. So the team's going to go to work, certainly, but they have a lot to celebrate in the meantime. And an interesting point that Josh Herrin made was that he was messing up the way that he's able to go out there and race because of the bad starts. He started both of the races this weekend from the second row, qualified 6th. What can he do, and what can that team do in the time off to be better prepared for qualifying once we get to the Ridge?
Well, that's just something that he's got some really good guys around him, and Josh knows it as well, that can see that what the problem is, and they go over their notes after this race. They're probably going to make a plan on how he can do better, and that's just qualifying a little bit better. I think what he means by that is by the time he got himself into second, Bobby was gone, and the only way he was going to be able to catch Bobby is take a lot of risk. And he feels like if he got a good start, he had the pace that he could have went with Bobby. So he just got to really focus on trying to get that good lap in and getting up to speed quick. But you know, the last couple races he hasn't qualified that great, but toward the end of last year, he really stepped up his qualifying. He was so fast on pole last year at the Ridge, so he can definitely do it. And I think Josh just realizes that, and he'll clean it up.
You know, that's one of the things that Cameron Peterson said also. You think by now he would learn. He was pretty hard on himself there in that interview with Hannah, saying that his first few laps were just way too messy. And to your point, you're messy early and Bobby Fong's not, or whoever the leader is in that particular race, they're able to pull that gap. And so now Cam has some work to do as well.
Yeah, well Bobby had that pace, so honestly, it was a step above the other guys this weekend. And when you're pushing over that limit they were to try to go with Bobby, it was a little bit messy. And You know, Cam knows that. You're not going to race a perfect race every single time, but you can tell Cam's been really hard on himself this year about cleaning up his mistakes, and, you know, he's been doing that. He's riding great. Another podium for him.
Got lots of great fans here. Look at that little guy. The thumbs up down there celebrating in the podium. Big wave, there you go. Big smile on his face as well. If you're here at the racetrack or you're watching with us on Moto America Live Plus, thanks for sticking with us. You saw the riders leaving the podium. They're now going to the post-race press conference. Yesterday's was exciting. You can watch those streamed on the Moto America Facebook channel, so make sure you go ahead and log in. But we're going to wrap up coverage and send it back over to Greg and Jason.
Race 2 unfolded this way, Jason.
Wow, the number 50 today wasn't going to mess around with anybody. He got the whole shot, and that was it, really. I mean, he got out front, Greg, and ran some really quick lap times. He just kept pulling away time lap after lap. Cam Peterson and Josh Herrin, those were the next two best today. You see Cam P here in second. Herrin slid up underneath Loris Baz in third. And then you see Sean Dillon Kelly for a moment. He gets up there on the inside until this happened, and this actually cost Loris Baz a ton of time as he went off the track as well. We're happy to say the SDK did get up. We saw him walking around. Josh Herrin then made a pass on Cam Peterson. Those two guys were just kind of finishing that order. Herrin would pull away just a little bit towards the end on Cam Peterson, but perfect weekend for Wrench Motorcycles. Bobby Fong and his whole team, pole position and 2 wins, and this one today wasn't close.
The man, Bobby Fong, what a clinic he put on for the rest of the field. Wow. This is what happens when you finish on the podium. You get to celebrate. We'll be back with more.
We're still with you here on Moto America Live Plus, and for all of the fans that are here at Brainerd International Raceway getting ready for the remaining races that we have this afternoon. We still have 2 races to go, Roger. We have Mission King of the Baggers for their second race, and we also have Junior Cup after the red flag early on being moved to the end of the day. So we still have that race to unfold. We know it will be a 10-lap race once we go green.
Yeah, we still got the bagger. Really looking forward to that race with with Troy and Kyle and Hayden Gillum. See if he can bounce back from that crash in the Stock 1000 race. A lot of championship battles are close, so it's going to be the baggers this morning. The warm up looked totally different results than we've seen all weekend. So it looks like there was some things a lot of guys have figured out. Track record was broke this morning in warm up, and it was not the guy that's been leading every session so far, so it's going to be a good one.
No, it was Kyle Wyman that was able to break the track record in this morning's warm-up session. As you see that Harley-Davidson flag there flying in the grandstands, and with all of the fans that are out here, it is certainly bagger country and the home of Indian motorcycles, and everyone rooting for Troy Herfoss and Tyler O'Hara. Yesterday, Troy was able in the first race to put it on the podium, finished third, and we had Hayden Gillum win the race. Rocco Landers was able to finish second, get his first King of the Baggers podium result as well.
And for Rocco, I think it was a huge boost for Rocco able to be there. And even, talking to Rocco after that, feels like he has the pace to maybe run with Hayden, but he's got to get there sooner. So we'll see. We'll see today. It's going to be a good one. And, Troy's a little disappointed. He let Rocco nip him there in the last corner, so I bet he doesn't leave the door open today.
And if you were with us yesterday and saw the King of the Baggers race, you saw James Rispoli on that factory racing team, the Harley-Davidson number 43. He had a huge moment, and that team had to rebuild his bike overnight. He did get out in the morning warm-up as well, and he was able to actually put in some lap times that were right there with where he was able to qualify. So that bike is back together, and he's going to be ready to go racing as well.
Yeah, and that's just, that's just a good credit to the team. They had a lot of work to do last night and build him a bike where he's able to get out there this morning and put some laps in. And not only some laps, but some really good laps. And, James is going to want to try to end this weekend on a positive note.
It's been a beautiful day here at Brainerd International Raceway. We have the fans that have stuck around with us for all of the racing action, the warm-ups this morning, and just into the racing this afternoon. 2 races remaining. You can see how beautiful it is in this part of the country and all the wildlife. It's the land of 10,000 lakes. There's certainly a lot of recreational activities that you can enjoy every time that we come up here. It's been a great weekend of qualifying and of racing, the 4th round of the championship, and there's still more to come. Let's go back over to Greg and Jason.
Brainerd International Raceway. Fans came out to check out Steel Commander race number 2. And Jason, like, we're kind of sitting here a little baffled in a good way. If I had said to you at the beginning of the season that by the time we roll out around number 4, Bobby Fong would be leading this championship, would you have taken me on a bet maybe a little bit?
Well, I would have been hopeful of that, but you can see it's happened. Bobby Fong leading by 8 points over Jake Gagne. Josh Herron 19 points back. Cam Peterson right in the thick of this, as is Loris Baz, as is STK still, even with that DNF today. Got 6 guys within 42 points, and you know, unfortunately with Cameron Beaubier out there, I think his championship run is obviously going to be over, but there's going to be so much mix and matching, I think, over the next couple rounds at both the Ridge and at Laguna Seca that this championship is really wide open.
The other thing I'm thinking about, too, is when is Cameron Beaubier going to come back? He wants to come back as soon as possible. We don't have a word on that yet. There was conversation about him trying to get back for his home race, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, which is going to be key in terms of the points. So it's like right now for these rounds where Cameron Beaubier is out because he's got a lot of potential to win races, it's like you got to get as many points as you can because there are chances that Cameron Beaubier is going to come back and he would grab 25 or he's going to grab 20 or he's going to grab 16 depending on how he heals up. So very interesting times we have amongst us.
Yeah, and the kind of injury he has, though, is going to take some healing. That heel, I know, is a tough one to get right. So even if he comes back at Laguna, is he going to be capable of winning? And I think he's not going to come back until he feels like he can win.
But all eyes are on Bobby Fong and his lead in this championship as we get to do this again. We're going to the Ridge all the way across the United States. In about 12 days' time, we're going to be there. Can Bobby Fong and his team get it done again, or will the rest of this paddock have an answer? Can't wait to find out. For Hannah and Jason, I'm Greg. Thanks so much for joining us. Steel Commander Superbike race action from Brainerd International Raceway is done and dusted. See you next time.